Hey everybody, welcome to Workforce Gaming. I'm Brad, here with Doug.
Hey.
I recently played World's End Club, which NIS America sent us a code for, but it was a game that I saw, it was in a Nintendo Direct, which doesn't feel like a game that should be in a Nintendo Direct, because I think it's one of those things if you're just browsing through the eShop, just kind of looks like one of those like, oh, that's some weird random game.
Mm-hmm.
But...
Well, I think the big thing was that it's from the Danganronpa guy. It's like, it's the next game from the creator of Danganronpa. And
so,
it's like, holy crap.
So the guys who
Which is why you're playing this and not me.
Exactly. and that was my interest. I was like, okay, that looks kind of like, I think I saw the trailer. This looks very Danganronpa. Okay, what is this thing? And then like I Googled it really quick. It's like, oh, it's the guy who did Danganronpa. Crazy that it looks that way. But it's actually him and the guy who did Zero Escape.
So this game is amazing.
So it's like a visual novel all-star team working on this weird-looking game for Apple Arcade and Nintendo Switch. Yeah. So it's very weird game. It is essentially, if you know those games, they're visual novels. This is a visual novel that somebody felt not confident in it being a visual novel. Is kind of because it has all the normal things you would do in a visual novel. It's got you're just kind of walking, you're talking to your different characters in your group, you're doing all this stuff. But in between all of that, you have some 2D platforming, you've got boss fights, you've got these very video gamey things. And the story part, if you were to just take out the gameplay and you just look at this as a visual novel, I think it would be very strong. It's not Danganronpa level, obviously, but it's pretty good. The issue is you've got to do all this other shit in between.
Sure.
Like, as you're going through it, like, you've got to do some platforming. The controls are really loose. The jump feels bad. There's lots of times where you, like, just miss a ledge. Like, it never feels like that was the focal point in development. It just feels like, oh, we need something for you to do in this. And the best thing is because it's a game essentially of... some shit happens, you end up here, we want to get back over to here. So essentially the game is you kind of traveling across Japan trying to get to Tokyo. And we need something for you to do in there. Well, there's no, like, who's the killer scenes or anything like that. Like, you get, like, the layered mini games you would normally get in a visual novel. So it's, well, instead, let's just have the characters kind of walking through these environments. And it just, every time you do it, it never clicks. It never feels good. Each character as they go through, there's... I don't remember the number, 12-ish of them. And each one awakens their, like, special power. And that ties into the story a little bit. But, like, their power, like, the main character's power is that he can throw things. And that's the power that awakens in him, is to, like, throw things.
And then is it like then in the gameplay is like, with this character, I can pick up a rock and then throw it, sort of thing.
Exactly. And it's like, ooh, there are things hanging. If I throw them at them, they will get knocked down.
Oh, jeez.
And that's like, there's a couple more, because it does get puzzly. Like, there's one that has, like, the gravity shift, where it's like, oh, I can go to the floor or the ceiling, and I can shift gravity, and we can play with some puzzles with that. So it gets into a little bit of puzzle solving, but just the puzzles never feel strong. The controls are just too loose. It never hits it. So that all sucks. I mean, there's a butt coming. There's no real bright spot in the gameplay part itself. Like, there's nothing I could sit here and go, that's good. I like this. But again, the story works well. Is it the story of the century? No, but it's a good story. So it starts out when it was marketed as, ooh, you're on a bus with your friends, this meteor hits, and now you're weirdly in this underwater theme park, and you have to basically play Danganronpa.
Sure. And what is Danganronpa? Like,
so essentially what happens is that each character has, like, a goal, and basically the one that completes their goal gets to live, everybody else dies.
Yeah.
And you play this game through it, and that's, like, the first 2 hours of, like, a 10-hour game. Everything, like, you do that, and it's like, ooh, yay, we did it! And it's like, okay, now game starts. Like, I don't still quite understand that, like, it justifies it in game as, like, we needed something, these powers, we needed something to awaken your power, we needed you to, have these, like, super tense emotions for these power to come out, like, almost like X-Men, where it's like your mutant ability awakens, like, in stress. So it's like, we just want to put you in this stressful situation. But again, that's, like, the first 2 hours.
Yeah.
And then from there, it gets into kind of, like, all kinds of crazy stuff. There's weird surprises, because essentially the world ended. World End Club, get it?
Yeah.
and you don't know why. You kind of find out that, like, oh, we've been asleep for a year. We were in this theme park for a year. And, like, over the course of this year, like, shit went down. We don't know what. Some characters see some things, some don't. Like, there's big X's floating around the sky that only, like, 4 party members can see, and everybody else thinks there's crazy. There's mild spoilers for different things, but I won't get into details. There's, like, one character that, like, may or may not still be alive. There's, like, a weird cult that you go to that worships this god that they believe is the one that they are alive because of this god, and that's the only reason they're alive, so they worship him, and they, like, do some things with your group because obviously culty things.
Is it fun? I mean, is the story fun? Does it go? Is it just because sometimes, like, it can just be like a random mishmash of stuff that kind of like, well, that was random. I never would have guessed that would have happened. But sometimes you can play in that and still be like kind of a fun story to follow.
It very much plays in it. And again, I think because the guys who did this and the reason that you're playing this is because it comes from those guys who are kind of known for some of those stories.
Yeah.
That stuff works. Like, that stuff all works. Like, you get to the call and you're like, okay, this is just some weird, like, little side plot. We're going to do this. And then, like, oh, okay, like, I don't want to get into spoilers for how it ties in, but all of that ties in. You go back and you do this other thing later. It's like, oh, this is a reference back to that original game that we were playing where it was like, for some reason, it had to be Danganronpa. Okay, that's why this is there. That's why this is there. And it does all piece together, I think, really well in the ending by the time you're done.
And then did it feel, though, like, I mean, was it just like a far worse version of Danganronpa? Because I know how much you like those games. Like, was the plot at least kind of that tier-ish?
Yeah, again, plot was good. Like, no issue with story at all. Like, story was good.
Okay.
Like, flat out, if you want just a blanket statement, story was good. Again, Danganronpa, like, next level, 13 Sentinels, like, next level.
Yeah.
Level right below that would be where the story would fall in. Just another kind of, again, not almost confident in the game. When you get to the ending, there's 2 endings. When you get to the ending, essentially you have paths at every story beat that you can take. Yeah. Once you get the first ending, it's like, oh, this, and this, and you kind of like don't necessarily succeed, and there's some weird things that happen. And it's like, oh, but wait, you can go back and look at alternate events. So it actually makes you go back to the beginning and take all of the other story beats. So essentially there's like a timeline on the bottom of up and down. So it's like, oh, I did up, down, up, down. Now go back. You have to do all of the opposite ones, which doesn't...
Are you still doing like the same jumping sections though in between those things?
Oh, no. You're doing the jumping things, but like they're different areas. So it's like essentially it's one group. So the first one group goes, ooh, this town was super populated. There has to be people there. Let's go there. The other one goes, no. This character earlier told us we should go here, so let's go that way. And you initially pick which one you go to. The first ending goes, okay, well, now you go back because there might have been some things you missed had you taken the other path.
Gotcha.
So, which, again, I like the idea of, but that comes at the end. And because you've had dialogue this whole way with all of your characters, because it's a visual novel, so you're talking to them all the way through, they've already hinted at a lot of things that happen there.
Oh, okay.
So like, you already know what's going to happen. So like, there's one part, again, mild spoilers, where like another character comes and joins your party.
Yeah.
The route I took, that character never showed up. But when my group gets back together after those 2 things happen, you're like, oh, who's this guy? And they're like, oh, they showed up because of da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Well, now I have to go back and play through the da-da-da-da section. And because,
but you know what the da-da... Because somebody already explained it to
you. And because the gameplay like is not fun. It's essentially like, just go back and play this. You already know what happens. And essentially you're looking for like some passwords and different like objects and things like that there. So it's like, go play through all this to find this one specific detail and do all this not fun stuff. So it's a very interesting game. It would be a hard game for me to, I think, recommend for people to play.
Sure.
Just because the gameplay is it's not fun. I was into it just because, again, I like the story. It's got some cool, like, is it aliens? Is it robots? Is what's going on? Like, where did this thing come from? Is it ghosts? Like, is this like, are we all dead? Are we not? It's got a lot of that kind of stuff going throughout it that always like speaks to me in terms of what I'm looking for in a story. But the game itself is just
not there.
It's not there. The story's there. Like, you can tell, like, okay, the writers of this are on a different level from the like gameplay developers
folks,
of this.
yeah.
So like you can see like, okay, like we clearly went out and we're like, let's get the writing team for this, but not let's get the gameplay guys for this.
Gameplay folks for it. Yeah.
But interesting, which again, I think is sometimes all you need for some games is, hey, it's an interesting, again, the other nice part about it is it's like 8 to 10 hours, maybe 12.
Yeah.
I think my Switch said it was in the like 10 or more hours category. So if you're not into visual novels, those are normally like longer than that. So it's a nice kind of breezy visual novel almost. So
sure. Yeah.
At least it's not long.
Wow.
That feels like
the best part about this game is that it was not long.
That feels like a harsh place to leave off. But again, like you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that much bad gameplay.
Yeah.
Anyway, we are Workforce Gaming. You can follow us on Twitter at Workforce Gaming. Subscribe to us wherever you're listening, and we will see you later.
Bye.